of you have been very engaged and supportive while we've been undergoing our own perestroika. And we are indeed restructuring our operations here as well as in Denver, and we've got folks from Denver on the call as well. And we are in mid-July, the very start of our new fiscal year, really gearing up for what I think will be a very important membership drive for us in the U.S., as well as for what this means internationally, as Slow Food International is looking at its membership model and learning from changes that have occurred in the food system as well as in the world of membership organizations. What I'll try and do is quickly, but not too hurriedly as possible, is walk you through what our strategy and timing is for the membership campaign based on lessons learned from past membership campaigns, based on feedback from many of you over the last few months in terms of what things you want, what things you don't want. And you can see on the screen here is the agenda for the day. So let me just start rolling through what we wanted to discuss. So we heard from you in some of the calls in the spring, and none of it was, big surprises. It's long in line with things that you have articulated that is challenging in making the case for membership for our annual membership campaign. This has occurred in September. It has worked in some years. It's also a very difficult time of the year because these households with kids are in transition. It often takes us a good week or 10 days to get up and running and gain momentum. But the sort of things But it is our tradition, and as a result, we raise a considerable amount of our annual membership money in the month of September. So how well we do during September has ripple effects in terms of how the rest of the year will go. But what you've called for is ability to communicate compelling reasons to join, and I think in this day and age, compelling reasons to join as a member of an organization is a tough sell. The tools to do that selling. Incentives like discounts or special deals that are available during that membership drive, as well as something compelling and cool to organize around thematically. And we have had some success with what some of the themes have been. At this juncture, what we think is really important is to tell the story among our members, high-profile and not so high-profile members, of why they are members of Slow Food, and place the membership within a context that this is part of a long and slow and great American revolution of societal change, of systemic change, and that is why we are members. I think that I'll go in a little bit more detail in terms of what does and doesn't work in membership campaigns circa the 21st century. For one is, I'm not sure we could ever produce the kinds of goodies, the kinds of services that would make it compelling for people to be passive members, consumers as members. And I think that where we are landing is that the most compelling case to be a member is to be a member, you're not a follower. To be a member, you are sitting at the table shaping the future of food. We need engaged individuals and communities, and the best way to define that is through membership and through identity of our holistic snail, rather than the issue-specific tendency inside nonprofits. What we've got here is the calendar of what the month of September looks to us at this stage. I mean, there's still some tweaking that we're doing. This is the kind of calendar we'd like to have on the website so that we can all, not an interactive calendar, we already have a leadership calendar that is already on the website and live, and we will put into that calendar these dates, but a visual page that will be devoted to the membership drive and will tease out the fun and engaging ways that we hope that now that it is mid-July, that there is time for you to integrate into the schedules that I know you all are already planning for the fall. activities and events so that we are all, whether we are in the West Coast, the middle of the country, the South, or the Northeast, that we are all talking about key issues that are key programmatic issues, that are key values that we are concerned with, all at the same time. So we've got the weekly themes, and I hope you can see this on the screen. The first week, of course, is a rather, I don't want to say it's a barren week, but it's a difficult week in that it's the first week of September, and yet it really still is summer because Labor Day occurs on the 7th. But I think this week gives us some opportunity to begin to gain some momentum, and we would like to stage a national town hall meeting where we will invite not just chapter leaders, but also members, and to give them a sense of what we see circa 2015, globally, nationally, as well as locally, and where we're going. The next week, thematically, would be the Eat It to Save It week, which coincides beautifully with the important Heirloom Expo on the West Coast, which we'd like to be able to give great time and attention to because we know a lot of chapters in the West Coast are active in this important commitment, our commitment to biodiversity. The week starts with Labor Day, which is where we think it might be appropriate to zone in on issues of equity, fairness, access to food, as well as the dignity of labor in the food system, and that this is an appropriate time to launch a one-day-only Give What You Can Day. The next week would be School Garden Slowdown, and we'd love to do a garden Twitter chat. The School Garden team just did one recently to great effect, and we think this would be a different way to engage a different audience. The Slow Meat week is perfect in that it coincides with cheese in Italy. And we know that Slow Meat will be participating in cheese. We will do a Slow Meat webinar. We're doing some webinars in August after Slow Meat. So we've got these weeks, these thematic weeks that we think are good, and that also all add up to the importance of leadership and really recognizing our members as leaders, risk takers in the field. We will finish strong with a phone-a-thon, and I know that Chloe will share some of the details in terms of how we'll share our database information for your members in your community and which names to work from, because we are also very excitedly going into this membership drive with a base that is solid and not falling apart. It's been migrated to a new system, and it is proving to be very reliable. For those of you who are not visual learners, here's some of the more linear look of the dates of when we'd be kicking things off and the individual weeks all the way down to the final push. We do have a goal. We have a goal every year, and I know that Chloe may want to add some insight as to how we've come up with these numbers. $125,000 is in keeping with where we have performed well in September, but I think being able to drill down in percentage of new members and the percentage of renewed members per year chapter will be helpful in identifying what is within reach. We were really blown away how last year, even though we combined our membership drive with the international themes, and international because it was a Terre Madre year, and we were somewhat thwarted by some delays in coordinating internationally. Our membership drive last year was only 3 weeks, and we found that some of the smaller chapters had some of the largest leaps. So being able to identify what is within reach and what is a 25% increase in new members for a large chapter versus a small may differ greatly. But those are what the national goals are, and I think it's worth mentioning that one of the things we asked for was, the competition between chapters did not feel very slow food, and there was an overwhelming call for why don't we create a national goal rather than trying to pit chapter versus chapter. So this is what that looks like. Now, you do know that during this this membership drive, we are also in the very early stages. By then we'll be a little bit deeper into it in our strategic planning. Our strategic planning is examining our business model, the logic of our structure, where and how we invest in the different pieces of our work, how well we do that. And it's also kind of the leading edge of what is taking place internationally. The amount of time I spend with the International Executive Committee, who are also questioning the relationship, the obligation, and the nature of the relationship between all of the levels of slow food communities, the local, the national, and the global. And so what we're doing in the U.S., I think, is going to help to inform greatly what is happening internationally. And what we have come to recognize and look at is, as a membership organization, which is at the core of our organizational identity, there are three areas where there is a Venn diagram where we hopefully sit comfortably in the middle in providing services or functions. And this is something I have shared with many of you before, so this may look familiar. One is, a national organization that provides useful services. On that front, we've not excelled, I think is fair to say. But what useful services do we provide at a national level, whether this is to chapters or whether this is to individuals? I think on chapters we have provide useful services to manage the complex legal landscape to function as a chapter. But for individuals, what are those useful services? We're not the National Rifle Association, so we can't provide insurance for gun ownership, which would be, say, another membership organization that provides services. But it's an area that membership organizations do. We provide a communications platform, and I'd say that our communications platform actually has multiple channels. We've got 500,000 Twitter followers. We've got over 150,000 Facebook. We've seen our Instagram increase from almost nothing by 400% of the last few months. We have a print magazine, and we have an email channel. We are using these different communications, this platform of different channels to communicate our values, news, best learnings, and whatnot. And of course, you all on the ground are doing this in your own community. And of course, some of the lack of coordination there between timing and how best we use our platforms is something we're looking at how to improve. In terms of providing a community, those who have attended Terra Madre know what it means to be part of a global community. It also is felt when we have national gatherings like Slow Meat that become global gatherings. But of course, the greatest sense of community is what you provide in your local chapter. And therefore, here's a piece where the community building is specifically delivered at the local level, either in chapters or in school gardens. We are a physical community. So I put this in the background in terms of looking at the value proposition, because I think in this day and age, that transaction of becoming a member does feel very old-fashioned. And therefore, really looking at who will jump to that and say, yes, I want to identify and align myself with this community by being a member, may speak to what services we provide that are effective and useful and add value. Hold on a second. I was too ambitious. Ugh. Hold on, I will be, there we go, okay. So our strategic planning consultants are helping us with that Venn diagram that you now see in the bottom left. That Venn diagram is really just focusing on the big red circle of work as a national network of slow food members. In addition to that core membership organization, we function at other levels. We put on events, Slow Meat being a recent example, Terra Madre, national gatherings, Slow Fish, which sort of a non-geographic community is organizing for March. By putting on events, we are conveners. We are gathering people together in safe spaces. Well, that is a piece of why we matter, but is it tied into the membership? Similarly, you can be a school gardener. You can be one of our school gardeners and still not be a member. But as our work as an organization and our brand to speak. Our school gardens are a piece of that, an extension of that. So during the strategic planning, we are beginning to really look at the numbers as well as the effectiveness of what that value proposition means as us as a presence in people's lives, whether as members or not as members. So I mention that as a context because it is somewhat awkward to be going into a high-profile, ambitious, we know who we are, we know where we're going, membership drive when we're also in the midst of strategic planning. So I think that what has been helpful is that the strategic planning, even in this early stage, is beginning to tease out some of the things that we've known but we've never maybe painted in the same formula. So in terms of the value proposition, this is where things are really landing in terms of who we are and how we function, and why people are members. Ideally, we're not trying to set up an organization where you join, you get something. Really what we're wanting to do is identify, count, gather those leaders who want to stand up and be counted, who want to walk to the table and begin to contribute to the discourse, the planning, the actions to shape the future of food in our communities. And therefore, it is really transforming, hopefully, those who are followers, whether they're social media followers or people who participate in our local events, and instilling upon the importance of them as leaders and being counted as leaders, and that's why they should become members. More than anything, that is the value proposition. If you believe in the future of food, if you believe in the values of good, clean, and fair food for all, then we need you as a member, because through greater number, we can be more effective. So in terms of some of the membership changes we are instituting as we roll into this membership drive, and this is also based on the perestroika that we're in the midst of, also in the very generous give back that chapters have done in the last few weeks from the membership checks. We are rethinking the whole issue of resources to chapters, and I have to say, since I arrived now 2.5 years ago, it was a bit puzzling to me how we did not have line items for swag, for collateral communications, or if we had a line item, it was so small that it was so disproportionately small to what an organization that is about ideas, that needs to communicate ideas and its brand needs. So going into this membership drive, we are not going with competitive chapters. We're going with one national goal, and as a result, the 25 to 30K that would be budgeted in our budget for checks back to chapters, i.e. the $5 per member, we're going to reinvest that money and instead put it into useful material, which is one of the things you all have asked for, to promote slow food, to promote the membership drive, and I'll go into that in a second. The other thing that we are also looking at the other thing that we are changing is the membership card. I love the membership card. I walk around with it, and yet, with the exception of perhaps when I need it to attend an international slow food gathering or to show someone, it does not provide a great purpose. It's an expensive item that we provide, but I think that much as Slow Food Editorial is transitioning from a analog organization with publications into a digital one with Slow Food Planet, we too are making that digital transition. So what we will be rolling out with this membership drive is digital membership cards where you land on your own membership card page, and there will be useful information there. There will be your card and the link that you can save for future reference. If you need a printout card, if someone needs a printout, we'll be able to do that in small runs. But in terms of the resources devoted to a membership card that isn't actually providing much of a purpose, whose number doesn't even coincide with the international slow food membership numbers because of different databases, it seems high time to make the digital shift. So if we're going to be providing you resources to actually run a membership campaign where we are all talking the same language from East Coast to West, from North Coast to South, that what might this look like? What we are pulling together is a membership campaign in a box. This is like a field box in which you can run field operations to promote slow food during the month of September. I think we'll learn a lot from this. We'll find out which tools are useful, which ones are not useful, which ones need to be changed. But the idea is that if you request these, we will send them to you. You will get physical stuff to be able to use, whether you're doing farmers market tabling, events, and how you use the tools will probably vary, and I hope that we'll learn a lot from that. You know, whether become a member and you get a sticker, or whether it's using the stickers to create excitement. I think that this is a period of great experimentation. With experimentation comes a lot of experimental stuff. Some of these are things you've seen, like Slow the Fork Down, School Garden Sticker, Slow Meat. We're going to sort of narrow down to probably 4 stickers, and we'd send you 50 of each design, and let's see how they go. Similarly, the request for posters, and in keeping with the idea of the Great American Revolution, is a poster that, you know, describes all the different pieces in which we touch this slow food revolution from. The brochures with similarly branded messaging, and something that enables people to send back in their form for filling it in, as well as forms for you all to use as chapters. But you know, this is for handing to individuals. Buttons, temporary tattoos, as well as, and this is something we could or could not do, but the feedback I've long gotten is that tabling at farmers markets is valuable. You can see in the upper right-hand corner the idea of a bank token pouch, a coin pouch, to be able to bring to farmers markets, especially as so many farmers markets use tokens both for credit and EBT, that this would be something that would be useful perhaps to the farmers market. It might be something that might be useful to the farmers markets beyond the membership drive, and that's a way in which we could engage and add value to the markets, is providing something useful but branded for us. There would also be a membership campaign in a digital box, and this would be the social media web apps, assets, sample tweets, graphics, an explanation of the value proposition, and far more succinct language than what I'm giving to you over a telephone call. The how-tos, how to ask for money, how to tell your slow food story, as well as some email copy to send to your own database for fundraising. So there would be the real stuff that you can touch and show people, as well as digital things. We know that our community is at varying levels of use of online and analog communications. We also think that some of the membership campaign perks, like the Pay What You Can Day, can create some excitement for particular targeted demographic of who wants to pay what they can on that day. Similarly, merchandise like the T-shirt giveaway for donors at the donor circle level may excite another group. And I know that we're also working on a handful of very slow-friendly companies for some giveaways and perks that we think would also excite individuals and hopefully gain some sense of urgency and excitement during the membership campaign. In terms of the why I'm a member, we think it's really important that this campaign reflect the work of our members, and recognizing that our members are leaders. They're leaders in the food movement. They're leaders that have taken risks, and have not just taken risks and done things and then stayed on their own and just did not continue to add value to learning best practices and carving a new way to grow community through food, but they've remained engaged. And we really look forward to telling these stories through macros that we send through social media, as well as what we weave into the email campaign, as well as what we put on our website. And also, in keeping with this, I don't have the camera to turn the computer around to show you the big map on the wall, but we're be able to map out where are other events going on around the country. To be able to share the local chapter events on a national at a national level, using both our calendar as well as using this September membership campaign pages, so that we can begin to track all the cool things that are happening around the country. The key dates to remember, and these are maybe something that we'll keep up, is emailing the digital toolkit out to you all for chapter leaders on the 22nd of July. That's really around the corner. This, in the next week, we'd be asking you for interest in receiving in the mail an actual membership campaign in a box. And we would want those by August 4th. We know that this is a strange part of the summer. People start to disappear, and yet, on the other hand, with food, it's hotter and more happening than ever. And before we know it, it'll be September. And then by August 17th is to submit story campaign and events to us so that we can begin to share those with our network. And I think with that, maybe I can turn it over to Chloe, who could give us an idea of within the next week what we'll be doing with sending out a follow-up to this meeting with a recording of this call, as well as details on how to order your box. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, I can add a little bit here. First of all, I hope this has been interesting and exciting for you all as much as it is for us. Can you hear me? Are we good? Great. So what's going to happen next is this week I'm going to work on making sure that we can take some good notes from this call and distribute this out to all the leaders that couldn't make it. That will include a recording of the call, and then a link to the calendar we created, and then also two forms that are really important to respond to. One is the story collection form, and that will be a form that we host on our website, where you can tell a little story about why you believe in slow food and how you became a member and why you care about being a member. And then you can also attach a photo of yourself, and we'll work on getting that into the mix of our campaign elements. Also included in that email would be a link for you to tell us any sort of ideas you have for events. And as the weeks go on and you start meeting with your boards and you start planning some events around the September campaign calendar, you can report back to us what you have planned, and we'll make sure we post that up on social media and get sort of some national level exposure for you. And so that will come next. And then I think, why don't, at this point, we open it up for some questions. And I'm going to share it with Richard, managing the questions here and there, because I know he can answer some too. So how about I give you all a second just to sort of ask some questions in the chat box, and then we'll call you out. And I will even try to unmute you and give you a chance to talk. All right. So I see a question from Loretta. Will the money level at each membership stay the same or rise. So it's going to stay the same, with the exception of the Give What You Can Day. So if you give $1 on that day, you get a Slow Food USA membership. If you give $1,000, you get a Slow Food USA membership. It's any amount will trigger a membership for September 7th on Labor Day. Other than that, we're going to stick to our regular membership levels, which I feel like have been going pretty well so far. And that's the $60 individual, the $30 limited resources, and then the donor circle, the $100 family membership, and then also any monthly gift will give you a membership as well. And I'm going to pass this question over to Richard. Richard, you might need to unplug so that you can keep talking again. The question is here from Summer. Why should we be incentivized to grow membership? The question is, why should we be incentivized to grow membership when our chapters won't be able to keep any of the money?
Chloe, I hear you. So the amount of money, yes, I'm sure it's going to create a fact. Do you need it? Okay. Okay, I was hearing some echo. That's much better. I guess that question is a little bit like the question that we encounter with the Slow Food International. We want to grow membership because we believe in slow food. The more resources we are able to raise, the more that we can share with the international organization, which we contribute every year to Slow Food Internationally. And the more that we can grow resources and programs that are able to provide meaningful North Star and programmatic work in local communities. Without the resources from the membership, we would not have the national office. We would not be able to mobilize the resources for the National School Garden Program, which plows back, I think in this fiscal year, another $25,000 into local communities, which I would say admittedly is not geographically dispersed evenly. There are target communities in which we work, but this is how we function as an organization. National resources to help you grow your chapters so that the chapters can function as key mobilizers around the food system. The resources that we provide to you hopefully make it effective for you to operate chapters. I would say that it's pretty complicated to organize chapters and sustain them. It's one of the things we're looking at in the membership and the strategic plan, because it is a highly complex thing to be functioning as a subsidiary charter of a national 501c3, and I know many of you know the pains of maintaining that. But we know them as well up here in New York because we're the one interacting with the lawyers and the 501c3 and all of that activity. But if we're effective in providing you the resources to function as a local chapter, then the resources that you raise locally, which marvels what we raise nationally. I think last year it was about $1 million that was raised by all of the slow food chapters combined, which marvels roughly how much money we raise nationally. So I think in terms of the business model of who we are, I think it is fair to say that we are reanalyzing that in a way that we maybe have never done so, and we are doing so nationally and internationally because the obligation and nature of our local do-as-you-want chapter as well as the national do as we want, but we hopefully coordinate on several different activities, and that we also hopefully coordinate with the global, is beginning to evolve and morph into something which may be better coordinated. We are certainly using the resources to support the work on the ground, and we're also using the resources to try and share one of our strongest assets, which is the global network coming to the U.S. and being part of our work here. So, the shorter answer of it is the equation of a symbolic $5 per member was never intended really to be a meaningful amount that would give you the resources to do good work on the ground. I think that's evidenced by the amount of money that is raised by local chapters that far exceed the dollar amount. So I guess the deeper question is, do you believe in membership? Do you believe that it matters to you that people join and are part of Slow Food and members who help shape Slow Food? Because that's why we're here. And in terms of what we do with the resources, I think there is consensus that at the national level, there are only some things that can be done nationally. I don't think we could pull off a national school garden program with staffing and resources, or national convenings like Slow Meat, unless we had a national association. I know from our colleagues in Italy how much they struggle to provide adequate support and resources in Canada. And Canada, our country to our north, has vastly smaller membership and vastly less impact, in part because of that. So I hope that begins to answer what might be compelling there.
All right, I think I'm going to actually unmute a couple folks here who have questions and let them talk, and then we'll answer them. First, Lauren Bloom from Chicago. I think I know the answer to your question. I'm going to unmute you, and we can see if we can solve that. So 1 second here. All right, go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I just had a question. I think when I first joined our board, we were, as leaders, getting pretty regular updates down from Slow Food USA. That was just kind of like an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV of our members, and so we were kind of keeping that updated in our own kind of chapter-wide CRM or database that we're using.
Right.
But I know that those were on pause while Slow Food USA was transitioning over to a new platform, and I hadn't seen those come through recently, and we've recently brought on a new board member that we're really excited about, who's going to start thinking about kind of this holistic idea of membership. And, if we are working to bring in new people, how can we keep in touch with them throughout the year and thank them and encourage them and kind of make it more of a year-round experience or sense of gratitude rather than just during the 1 month, which is also important.
Totally.
And so we've been looking to kind of keep that data updated, and I wasn't sure if maybe just I was out of the loop or if that was still with the
story there. And this might be, maybe it's helpful for other people to hear, but it's a really small thing that happened this past week. So in September, we started doing automatic monthly membership lists sent to chapter leaders' email accounts, especially to the Slow Food USA created email address for your chapter. This past week, we had a small glitch with a few of those chapters, and Slow Food Chicago was part of that, but our consultants have fixed it. So that should have been just a one-time deal. But and if you want to go ahead and send me an email at chloe@slowfoodusa.org, I can help answer those small questions. But if you go back to your chapter email account, you should see every month there should be a membership account or a membership report there in your inbox.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. Sure. All right. And I see, Zeno, you have a question too. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm residing in Russian River, California. I'm also interested in kind of clarifying, conceptualizing, thinking through what it means for local chapters to have members. Not that they're members of the bigger network nationally, internationally, but also why do we have members locally? And then some kind of other things come in mind that maybe you don't see when you think it just from a national perspective, like we have been in the past always trying to get as much members, and it didn't really matter much who these members were. And you could also kind of turn it upside down and say, well, here we are this organization in this area. What people, who do we want to be our members? Can we kind of make a list of the 20 thought leaders in food that we really think should be on board for our organization, not so much as like members of the board, but as members that you can interact with, that you can rely on, you can put back on. So another thing about local perspective is you have supporters that are not members. You have events that people come to, and you wouldn't want to say you have to be a member because that is really an obstacle for these people to participate in events. And so how do we kind of think that through? What's the relationship between members and supporters, and how do we get more supporters? So I'd like to kind of see us in the coming couple of months also thinking about the question of local perspective, and then what new kind of perspectives do you get on the whole issue of membership when you thinking about it from your own kind of chapter point of view?
All right. Looks like Richard has a comment. I'm going to put him on mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Zena, thank you. Those are great questions, and it sounds like you've been in conversation with our strategic planners. These are very much the sets of questions we are asking these next few months. And I would say that your local perspective is especially helpful, but it does reflect what we face at a national level. Whether it's national or local, the question of membership is, it's an existential one. As to why does it matter? Now, the first point, in terms of local members, and I've certainly, since I've been here, I've encountered this question of the sometimes uncomfortable handoff between the local point of face for Slow Food, which is our local chapters, are not where the membership resides. The membership resides in a national database. I think that's appropriate, except the only thing I would say that would be better is if there was an international database and everything resided in Italy and we all drew from one database. Of course that would make much more sense, but we don't make sense as an organization, and most organizations don't because they evolve over time, and certain decisions made 5 years ago affect what happens, for several years beyond. So in terms of whether there are local members versus national members of Slow Food, really there's only one level, is you're a member of Slow Food. You're a member of Slow Food where you are, and when people join, they are given an opportunity to align themselves with a chapter or primary chapter. Of course, we know that people move around and they are members of multiple chapters, or they align themselves with and get information from multiple chapters. I think your description of members being, a group of thought leaders who can rely on one another does describe really the deepest, most important part of Slow Food, which is not, the original term we used, convivia, which we, simply exported from Italy. Most of us not knowing what a convivia was, to a chapter, which sounds much more like a Rotary Club. Really the language that is making more and more sense to the international conversations, and I think it does for us here as well, is that we're talking about local slow food communities. And the local slow food community has a level of work that is handled at the national level, some of it's handled at the local level, some of it at the international level. And I think where we have failed is in clear handoffs and clarification of who does what and why and who benefits from that. And I think, similarly with the local events, of course, you have in your community a chapter and its own database, and there's an overlap between your database and who's in our database. We'll perhaps never know how much overlap there is in the Facebook page and in the email lists. This is sort of the managing our information. We've not managed it well because we've let it grow much more in a much more libertarian, decentralized fashion, which makes it much harder to manage well. But on the other hand, it does make it very resilient. I think the logic of having local events, I don't think that, and though we do have a history of this, that events should be for members, or that there should be a requirement of X number of events that are members only. I don't know. I think that feels very outdated, and the importance and I think the success of the events that we've seen flourish over the years are events that are much larger than just our local members. We're meant to be a nexus point, not a club. And so I think this is all interwoven into these questions about why should I ask for members? Well, we want members because they're the most committed parts of our food community.
I just wanted to jump in quickly. Can you guys hear me all right? So this is Megan. I know many of you on the call right now. And I, as a former chapter leader and current staff of the national office, I just want to say, and the reason you become a member of Slow Food to me is because you believe that this movement deserves a national and international voice. And you want to stand up and be counted as someone who is part of that forming of allies and who stands in solidarity with them. And this is why a big part of our membership drive this year is looking at people and asking them exactly this. Why are you a member? Why is Slow Food the place that you call home? And you want to make sure that this house stays standing for the years to come. So I'm going to pass it off to Chloe, who I know has a few more details to go over with the membership drive. Yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Chloe.
Thank you, Megan. Great. Well, I'm actually going to ask Richard to go back to the calendar page of this PowerPoint. I want to roll back over here and kind of bring us back to this drive that's happening in September and add a little bit more. So the idea about the calendar, just to reiterate it, to give you a bit more background, we heard from you all that you really care about having something to organize around. And we also know that each chapter is different and that maybe, your chapter might do a lot of work around slow meat, but not so much about school gardens. And maybe your chapter cares a lot about biodiversity, but you haven't really had any sort of interest or programming around slow meat. So we created this place so that you could find the place that you could plug into best. We also wanted to give you interesting days and different events that you could organize around. And so that's the point here. And that's what the calendar is hopefully going to help you with. And so I just want to reiterate Megan's point and say that this is the time to celebrate why we're here, why you're hearing this call, why we're a part of Slow Food. And this is a season to celebrate that and to come together as a community and really believe that we'll do something great together. And I hope that it's fun, and I hope that we can, I can't wait to hear what kind of events you all put on, and we'll be here in the office to support you. At the end of the month, on the 28th, we're going to do a phone-a-thon where you'll get, throughout the month, you're actually going to get 3 membership lists emailed to you. And the last one will be on that week, so you'll see, it'll be an updated list with everyone that's renewed. And we're going to just all, here in the office, the Slow Food USA board, governors and leaders, whoever else can, we're going to do a really exciting day where we just call lapsed members and ask them to renew. And so that's another element of this. And I'm going to ask Richard to now go to the last slide where we have dates, due dates.
It takes it a few moments.
Okay, no problem.
Because of the delay.
And I just wanted to give you guys one more chance to look at these dates and write them down, and then you'll see them again in the email that I sent you this week. So July 22nd is a day that you're going to get the digital membership drive in a box. And that's going to have all the web assets, the social media kit, the fundraising emails that we're going to write for you that you can send to your list. And then also some great ideas for how-to guides for events. And then we're going to kind of refresh our value proposition language, like sort of to what Richard talked about today, to help you too when you start, talking to people who ask the question, why should I be a member and what does Slow Food do? We hope that that can help you with that as well. And then on August 4th, one last time, the last day to put in orders for the membership drive in a box order. And this will be the posters and the membership brochures and the stickers and all that stuff that we think might be helpful at your events. So the way to do that is to email chapters at and just say, hi, I'd like a membership drive in a box, and we'll follow up and get your address and send it over to you. And those should be going out mid-August if you receive them, if you meet the deadline of August 4th. And then August 17th is just the last for your story submissions and your events. And again, I'll follow up with an email with this information as well. And I see a couple other questions here before we move on. Let me just look real quick. Okay. Loretta, I'm going to get back to you with that question. I see it, and I'm making note of it, and I'll include this in the email I send out. All right. Any other questions about the drive? All right, Zena, what's your question about the card? You're
Can you hear me? Well, I wrote that a little earlier in the chat window.
yes.
San Diego has a card, I think they make it themselves, and it's a real digital card in the sense that it contains information in some form, and you can use it at restaurants and other places to get any free dessert or a discount. And I think that's a valuable thing that they have, and that they offer their membership. And I can understand that USA is not able to offer that at this point, although you guys are developing a small business program.
Mm-hmm.
But my question was kind of, how do we kind of share innovations in the network like San Diego having that card so that other people can learn from that and replicate it or modify it?
Yeah. First of all, it's so funny you mentioned that because both Richard and I subscribed to San Diego's email list, and we sent a newsletter yesterday and loved it. But specifically, we saw the membership card. And so we made note of it, and I think we're gonna use it as a little bit of an inspiration here and there. The question about discounts, I think that might be something that we do more on a sort of a campaign basis and less evergreen. But that's something we're still exploring. But to answer your question directly, the best way to tell us about cool ideas you see is to email chapters@slowfoodusa.org. And that's a great place for, just to drop an idea. Also post it in the Slow Food chapter leader Facebook page. We are active on there, and we would love for that to be even more active. And that's also a great spot for that. All right. Any other questions? Oh, yes. And we also have Zena pointed out, he's created the Slow Food Convivium Communication Manager Facebook page, which is I'm also a member on there, and he's doing a really great job managing that. And there's some really helpful info there too if you're looking for ways that you can. It's a group. So, yeah. Looking for ways to work on your communication platform and ideas for communicating with your members. All right. Well, thank you so much, you all, for joining. It means a lot to see such a great group here. And look out for our email with all of this information and hopefully in a really easy to read, nice, beautiful, lovely, effective email that you can use with your Slow Food leader boards and start planning some chapter events in September. Again, we're here if you have any questions. We really appreciate all you do, and we're excited to be in this together. So all for now, and take care.